Well, hello. We are going to discuss lesson 7.1, Ohio and slavery. So, this is the information that you took notes on Monday. So, Ohio became a state in 1803, and by 1840, Ohio became the third largest state with over 1.5 million people. The only states that were larger was New York and Pennsylvania. So Ohio became the third largest state, which means its people had a lot of influence on things like presidential elections, new laws, and other government decisions. So Ohio has become a big deal in the United States. And so if you look at this is called a population density map. And if you look, here's New York and Pennsylvania. The darker the color, the more people that live in the area. So and this is in 1840 when Ohio is the third largest state. So it has not a lot of lighter colors, a lot of dark colors, which means a lot of people are living in that area. So at this time in the United States, it has become divided. You had northern states that were called free states, and those states were against slavery. It was illegal to own slaves in these northern blue states. So Ohio is included in that. Ohio was a free state. The red states are called slave states, and based on the name, you probably know why. They allowed their people to own slaves. So as you can see, it's divided. So we have two groups of people that were in constant conflict in the United States. You had abolitionists and you had slaveholders. Abolitionists felt that slavery of Africans went against the natural rights of humans. That is saying that no human being should be a slave. We have the right to freedom. Abolitionists worked to end slavery in the United States. In comparison, slaveholders saw slavery as an economic necessity. You read about the cotton gin and how cotton became a valuable crop. Well, these southern farmers wanted to make as much profit as possible. So they thought it was an economic necessity to have slaves because it helped harvest crops quicker. It helped plant crops quicker, and slaves did almost all the work. So slaveholders saw it as a necessity. Both valued the work of Africans, just in different ways. Which side do you think most people from Ohio was on? If you said abolitionist, you would be correct. Most Ohioans were on that side of let's end slavery in the United States. So there was a book that came out in 1852 called Uncle Tom's Cabin. And it was written by an abolitionist named Harriet Beecher Stowe. And it sold 300,000 copies its first year. And it told of the story of slave families being separated by their owners. Back then, it was common for slaveholders to sell children to other people to make money. So they would split families up. They might sell the husband and keep the wife. They might keep the kids and sell the parents. This was a very common practice in the South. And so Uncle Tom's Cabin really gave more motivation to end slavery, and kind of showed people what life was really like for slaves, for enslaved people. And Uncle Tom's Cabin was based on the story of runaway slaves that she met while she was in Cincinnati. So it was a big deal, and it actually made Southerners mad. And they led the passage of the Fugitive Slave Law. And this was a reaction to Uncle Tom's Cabin, because a lot of people got the courage and the motivation to help runaway slaves. And so these slaveholders had to react in some way, and they passed the Fugitive Slave Law, which made it illegal to help enslaved people escape. So it was illegal to help runaway slaves. And so on this slide, there's actually a money reward if anybody returned this slave named Emily to the slaveholder. So that is what the Fugitive Slave Law did. Now, do you think people in Ohio and abolitionists were happy about this? No, not at all. And do you think they stopped helping runaway slaves escape to freedom? No. Actually, it actually motivated them to do more. And so there was a system called the Underground Railroad, which was a system of secret routes used to free people and to help enslaved people escape to freedom in Canada. So it was a secret route used by free people to help enslaved people escape to Canada. Because in Canada, slavery was illegal, and Southerners and other slave owners could not go into Canada. Once the enslaved person got to Canada, they were free. So that's why all these people, like Harriet Tubman, helped these slaves along the way to reach freedom. Now, there was another idea, and John Brown led the way, that he believed that it was not enough to help them reach Canada for freedom. He believed that they needed to take up arms and fight back. Arms is guns. So they need to take up guns and they need to fight back. And they need to take back the country and end slavery. So in 1859, Ohioan John Brown led an attack on a government post in Harper's Ferry, Virginia. His plan was to take all the guns at this post and give them to enslaved people so that they could fight back. His plan failed, though, and Brown was executed or killed. But what John Brown did is he scared the people in the South, because John Brown and his supporters showed Southerners that abolitionists were going to do anything, everything and anything to end slavery and give these enslaved people the freedom that they have the right to. And it all came to head. Have you ever played with dominoes and you line them up and you knock the one domino and they all fall? Well, that's what's happening right now. John Brown and Harper's Ferry, and then in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States. And Abraham Lincoln was against the spread of slavery. And the southern states were so mad with the election of Lincoln. They were so mad, in fact, that 11 of the states left the United States, and they created the Confederate States of America. They created their own country, and they had their own president named Jefferson Davis. And this is what a time in American history called the Civil War. Now, Civil War is fighting among people in the same country. It was the northern states versus the southern states. And here is a map. Blue states are the Union states, those who stayed as part of the United States of America, those who are fighting to put an end to slavery. And then the purple states is the new Confederate states who broke away from the United States and started their own country, or their own, technically it's a confederation, but their own type of country. Okay, that is the end of this quick presentation. Now you can